Okay, so the next thing I want to do is talk about the press kit itself. I need all of you to go online to our Canvas site with me, please. And I want to go through exactly what we're looking for, what we're expecting, all the above, just to make sure everybody understands. And then any questions that you have, now would be the time. You'll also have, so next week, Christy will be back here. And you still have, it's at least a week after that before the presentation of your projects are due. So if any questions come up between now and then, Christy will be here to help answer this and bring more clarity to this. We just want to make sure everybody is comfortable with all of this. So. Alrighty, so if you go to our Canvas site and click on Session 1 and look under Session 1 Resources, this is where your worksheet is right here. So I want everybody to open this up. So the assignment worksheet is right here. And this is what we expect. This is the whole sort of like thing. So I'm just going to go through this one at a time to make sure everybody understands this. So the objective of this is to produce a press kit and a separate lookbook to promote, introduce a fashion designer's new line at a trunk show or an event. The designer for this project can be a class member, a real designer, fictitious or real, agreed on by the team. It can also be, in the case of some of you, it can actually be the store. It doesn't have to be a designer. So I think the H&M group are doing this as for H&M. That part's fine. But again, it's still about this event thing. So is everybody clear what we're talking about or wanting for this event thing? Right? It's a runway show. It's a party. It's a cocktail. It's a runway show that happens in the store. It is it's plane tickets to fly to Paris and have a great weekend with the whatever it is. It's this event, and so you have to have what this is for. In our case, I'm going to stick with the designer motif because everything I show you from now on is going to be based on a designer. So, brand new designer, Verser Engelhardt, is actually introducing his brand new collection, and they're going to do it at the Drake Hotel, and it's going to be cocktails only, a runway show, 2 hours. You're invited, and all proceeds from this are going to go to the American Cancer Society. So your money is going beyond. It's blah 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 blah. That's going to be the event part of it, right? So then you shoot the press kit pictures. You draw up exactly this announcement that you then can send the pictures and this announcement in this really tricked out setup to. Again, it would be here only local. I wouldn't be sending it to Vogue and to Bazaar. I would be sending it to the Chicago Tribune. I would be sending it to Chicago Magazine. I would be sending it to North Shore. I mean, all the small little magazines that are around here. I would be doing all of that kind of stuff. If I could get it on TV, I would get it on TV. I would send it to WGN and say, this event's going to happen. And I would hope that I could get, one of the journalists to actually talk about this, because that is all advertising for you or for me that is free. Does this make sense, everybody? The design behind all of this? Okay. So the obligations of the team are to design and produce the project based on the philosophy of the designer. Again, if it's about me, what did I use? What was my design about? Was my design about, I'm really influenced now by period pieces, so I did this whole, thing based on Wuthering Heights. That's the inspiration for my collection. So then you guys would again do a shooting based on my brand and on what I was trying to do. So the whole argument that we had about Ralph Lauren or Prada, given the set and the scene, the pivot from Ralph Lauren to Prada was a smart move because the images that team ended up shooting were much more in the style and brand of Prada than they were in the style and the brand of Ralph Lauren. So anyway, this has already happened. The concept boards for the shoot, they needed to be on the set. Concept boards are critical to everything we do in this class, so there will always be the need for them. You will always have to make a set of these. Again, everybody had concept boards, but half this class didn't bother to turn them in. So it's not, everybody has to turn in their own version of the same board. So I know you're in teams of 3. They are the same exact board for all 3 of you, but I don't have any way to know that unless you actually submit a copy of your concept board for the assignment for you for that. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. You have to source the wardrobe and the accessories, 6 distinct looks that illustrate the designer's line and philosophy. You need to schedule times when the team can actually shop together. The teams that did shop together were far more successful than the ones who were split apart, because the ones who are split apart have no idea what the other people are getting. And did it work? On some level, yes, it worked, but it's so much easier if you guys can get together and do this as a group as opposed to doing this as 3 individuals. You need to then, for the first 2 projects, you cannot use an outside stylist. You have to actually source the stuff yourself. No look should be specific to any one photographer to shoot. Any team member should be able to shoot any of these. So it's not like, oh, Lord, these are my 2, and those are your 2, and those are your 2. That's not how it works out. I mean, ultimately, every photographer will shoot 2 looks. Again, there was more than one team didn't understand that part. More than one team actually had everybody shooting every single outfit on both the lookbook and on the press kit sets here, which is overkill, but at least it didn't do underkill. Design and collect and construct the set for your shoot. You all did that. Participate in the styling of the model and the props for and during the shoot. You all did that. Do returns for your wardrobe and accessories. Hopefully you have done that. Then you need to write a statement of the designer's philosophy. So again, the example that I gave you about me, I am really influenced by Wuthering Heights right now, so my entire collection is about Wuthering Heights. If you go and look at Alexander McQueen, go just do a search for Alexander McQueen on YouTube and runway shows. There's some of the most inspiring, incredibly, productions that you will ever see. But they all are influenced by very specific things. So the collection that he first did that made him a superstar was called Rape. And it was all about what he saw was happening in Ireland by the British government. And so his collection is all about tartans and plaids and all of that kind of stuff, because it was directly reflecting that whole clan mentality that exists in Ireland. And that was that's what drove it. But then there was later ones that were getting, he got into like bird themes. So he would actually have, so much of the philosophy was about bird and then everything about that, about the nature of bird bones, which are hollow and all. I mean, so that philosophy drives the design, and you need to shoot pictures that reflect that. The biography of the designer is not a philosophy. Biography is a biography. It is about how they grew up. How did they land where they are right now? What are they doing? That kind of stuff here. So these are 2 separate things that often get confused, and a lot of people, when they first do these, flip these. So again, biography, more history, philosophy, it's what's driving the design. On all of the pictures that you use for the press kit, Christy already talked to you about that whole design part where you actually have a flap of paper that is taped to the back of the image, that when it pops down, you can actually read everything about so it's the designer, the contact information, a description of the clothes, a price point of the clothes, a number, if there's an item number for the clothes, all that kind of information. Again, yes?
So we didn't shop for ours.
Then you make it up.
But ours don't all have to be the same for that, we can just guess.
So in your case, because again, you all shot everything, you're still only going to have 1 image for your press kit there's going to be 6 images in your press kit. Now your lookbook can be a combination of everything that you guys shot. That doesn't really, that part, you can mix and match that part, whatever. But the press kit is only going to contain 6 images, the 6 outfits that you actually shot. And so again, it should be, I want all of you to be represented, so it should be 2 from each of you.
No, I meant for the pricing.
Oh, make it up.
Each
Oh, just make it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, make it up. Make up my item numbers. You can fake all of this. Yeah. That's true for all the assignments that we do. I mean, to perfectly honest with you, when we get to the editorial thing at the end of the semester, a lot of people I'm shooting for Vogue, I'm shooting for Harper's Bazaar, I'm shooting for Italian Vogue. Right? Are you really shooting for Italian Vogue? You make it up. Okay. So anyway, if there are questions about this, Christy will be here next week with some actual press kit stuff that she can show you, and you'll see how this whole having a tagged on there and with all the information actually works. But the reason you want something to fold away is you want people to actually just look at the picture without all this text on it, but you also need to give them what they need to have that text. So yeah, so you're going to have to create all the captions for each of the photographs in the press kit. You're going to edit and assemble one final press release from 3. So every person on the team has to do a press release by themselves. And then as a team, you get together and you might just pick one and say, oh, well, that's the best one, we'll just run with that. Or you may grab bits and pieces from each of them to craft the final one that you would actually use. So we are expecting 4 press releases in total. One from each of the 3 of you as a draft, and then the 4th and final one that's the culmination of what you guys decided to do. Again, this is the biggest problem that we run into this. If you all print separately, your images are not going to look like a cohesive group and match anything. You've got to either get one person to do all the printing, or you need to get together and print them all together so that you have the same look. So we've had people come in here and, oh, I thought we were doing black and white. No, we're doing color. And so, boom, that's fucked. And then, oh, I did mine all 8.5 by 11. That's the size of a magazine. Yeah, well, I did mine all 11 by 14. And it is a shit show. Do not do that. And certainly do not wait to print this out the night before you have to present it in class. You will, I guarantee you, you will not show up with something that you can work with. Yes?
There is no minimum or maximum size requirement?
Typically, you want to use, again, the 8.5, 11, 8 by 10, that kind of size, because this is going to go in a folder that actually holds all of this material. And you're not going to find an 11 by 14 folder.
But if we did.
If you did, go for it. We've had people, so you should know this, there's a guy, he's actually a really successful menswear designer right now, and he was a menswear designer back in the, when he was studying here to be a menswear designer. And so for him, it was really, so what he did was, for his press kit, he had all the pictures, he had all the, the images that we're talking about, all of that was done. He handcrafted a wooden box. He then took a custom shirt that he had made and put that in the box along with all of the other shit, and then closed the top of the box up, wrapped it, addressed it, and hand-delivered 6 of those to clients throughout, to the press people around the city. So, I mean, these things are not just a collection of photographs. People put all sorts of shit in here to amp it up, right? So like, for instance, in my case, I'm doing, my charity is going to be the American Cancer Society, right? So I would, have material in there about how to donate to the American Cancer Society. I mean, I would trick all that out. People put in people put lottery tickets in these things. People put, they're trying to bribe whoever's going to get this stuff to use this stuff, right? So how about giving them a piece of my clothing for free in the press kit? Oh yeah, Versa does really amazing, alpaca scarves. So here's one, right? I mean, this is the whole trick to this. Yeah. Is this making sense to you guys? Are we good on this? Are there questions about this so far? Okay, guys, still focus. You can talk about your team later. Still focus. So you need to ensure that the press kit has all the necessary elements to function as a merchandising tool. So each photographer, everyone on the team, you need to photograph 2 or more complete looks for the press kit and for the lookbook, 4 images total per photographer. If teams had actually read this, you could have saved time. And then create an estimate for photography, fees and expenses, talent sets, all of that. We just did an example of that. You need to create a final invoice for the photography and presentation format. You need to write a draft of the press release. So this is, everybody has to do this. Then down here in the presentation, you are going to have a physical press kit as well as a digital version of it containing your 6 or more looks. You're going to have a physical lookbook as well as a digital format of the lookbook containing 6 or more looks. You need captions for each photograph on the Christy and I use this as our checklist. So everything that's on this thing you need to have. You need a folder with a designer logo on the top of it. You need a biography of the designer. Again, in the case of people who are doing stores instead of a person, it would be the history of H&M. And then the philosophy would be the philosophy of H&M. So you can trick this out to still stay with it as being a store as opposed to a designer, but you still have to have these elements. 3 press releases, drafts, 3 total, 1 from each photographer, a final press release for the trunk show event, whatever it's going to be, that's comes as a combination or comes from the 3 drafts that were done. Your concept boards need to be a part of your presentation. The photo estimate and presentation format do not come in here with a piece of paper and a spreadsheet on it. We expect this to be on your stationery that's tricked out with logos and all of that stuff. If you don't have that stuff, it's time to start working on that stuff. You need a final invoice and presentation format. Again, we are looking for 3 estimates, 1 from each photographer and 3 invoices from each photographer. I cannot tell you how many people fuck this up. They don't fuck it up, they're just lazy and they don't do it. And you'll get dinged for every single one of these that's omitted. Overall press kit budget and presentation format. So what's going to happen here, and this is an important one to note, the photography is only one part of the cost. So your estimate and your invoice becomes a single line item on this overall press budget. Because the other things that are in the press budget would be, how much do the folders cost? How many are you doing? How much is the labor to actually put the press kit together? Are you putting a t-shirt swag in there? Is that a part of it? How much does that cost? Are you hand delivering those? How much does it cost to hand deliver these? Are you mailing it? How much does it cost to mail this stuff? We had people come in, I swear to God, with a folder like this, about this big. This was going to be their press kit, right? And they said, oh yeah, we're going to mail this out, 45-cent stamp. Really? You're going to mail this for 45 cents? Are you out of your mind? We had other people come in here and they said they were going to send a press kit to the entire mailing list of J. Crew, which is over 2 million people. Do you know what postage alone on that costs? That's well over $2 million in postage, and that's only $1 a pop. Most things this big are $3 or $4 to actually mail it at least. So now all of a sudden you're into $3 to $4 million in postage. Do you know how much it costs to print 6 images, to print 2 million sets of those? I mean, their press kit budget was like, you know, it was insanity. It was like $10 million. Really? So again, this overall press kit budget deals with all of the other things. Again, your photography cost will be a single line item on this press kit budget. So photography, $46,000. Again, and then printing, blah, 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 blah. Postage, blah, 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 blah. Labor to put this together, blah, 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 blah. Folder cost. Oh, this is the swag we're putting in cost. Oh yeah, we decided we were going to do, anyway, you guys get this? We good? Okay, a digital version of your presentation, because that's how you're going to present it here. And then, and this becomes important to us. So the way that we get hair and makeup for $200 for 4 hours and the way we get models for $200 for 4 hours is that we promise them a selection of images that go way beyond the 6 that you are going to use in your press kit and then whatever you're using in your lookbook. So what I am looking for every photographer in this room is 50 to 60 outtakes, images that you think are still your number 1 picks or your number 2 picks, whatever, from your shoot that we will then, we do everything delivery. So we will figure out a way to actually, for you to get them to me. In all likelihood, it'll be smash transfer. Yes?
You don't have to edit.
No, you don't. That was the part I wanted to make. So you need to edit and retouch and trick out the images that you're using for the press kit and the lookbook. But these, note, what you do need to do is you need to process them. What I'm going to ask you to do is give me full res large JPEGs of everything. You need to process these out because they can't deal with raw files. They can't deal with a Photoshop file. You don't want that stuff that big anyway. You just need to do your pick of 50 to 60. Make sure you include a variety. I want headshots in there. I want full length in there. I mean, whatever you did to mix this up. But again, that's 50 from every photographer. That's 150 from the team. Yes?
If we have photos of like accessories that didn't have their face like explicitly in
Don't
it,
bother. Again, hair and makeup and the models all are interested in you know, recognizable images of them. Are there quite, okay, so again, high-res JPEGs, right? Not, they don't have to be like, you know, gigantic, whatever, but they need to be able to actually print something out or put something up on their website. So now again, they are restricted, as are you restricted to what they can do with this. So for everybody involved in this, you can use it on your website and you can use it in a print portfolio. You cannot use it on social media without getting permission specifically first. And all of that's done via Christy. So you just say to Christy, I love these pictures, I want to use them on my social media, and she'll say, fine. And she'll ask you to send me 1 or 2 examples so that I can show the agency, so that the agency says, okay. Now the reason this is that, again, we talked about this, you've got a model that the agency is trying to brand as Molly McButter, the wholesome young girl from corn country in the Midwest who's sweet and charming and friendly, whatever, and you've shot her in bondage gear. They're not really going to want that out on a lot of social media. Again, your website and your print book, that's fine. Molly McButter in bondage, just in leather is great. But you can understand why they want to control that narrative at least somewhat. So that's the reason this exists. But it's an implicit understanding amongst everybody. So for instance, if the model then said, hey, you know, I've got a connection, I can actually get this thing published, they need to get your permission. And are there any questions about this part? Are there, yes?
I think that, like, for a lot of the images, you wanted enough room at the top and bottom for people to, like, edit or make it black and white or something.
That part's up to you.
Okay.
Really. It's your work. And at the end, it's your work.
Don't we need black and white images for the press kit though?
You can do black and white or you can do color. Right now, it's the reason it started out as black and white. Usually the requirements for that stuff is because most newspapers never printed color, but now pretty much everybody does. So, and if they want to convert it to black and white, it's simple.
I want to make it in color or black.
The thing is that I think the choice would be more, color would be the standard. If you wanted to make it in black and white for a specific reason, a branding reason, then that would make sense as well.
Okay.
So yeah, really should be driven by what you're trying to do. Okay, so that's this in a nutshell. Again, use this as your check mark right here. This is exact, Christy and I go through and tick these off one at a time. And if there's something missing, then all of a sudden right next to this, it's going to have in parentheses, oh, 5-point hit for no biography. Oh, 5-point hit for no philosophy. Oh, there was only one draft. So this is when people start getting graded separately. So for instance, if 2 of you turn in a press release draft and 1 of you doesn't, the person who didn't turn one in is the person who gets deducted from this, not you. So a lot of times these will end up, you'll end up getting individual grades. What we don't yet have a system for is, I know a lot of you have talked about people who never showed up to meetings, people who didn't do any of the work, people who didn't this, that, or the other, all of that kind of shit. There's no way for us to really go in and quantify that and grade separately for that. So it functions as a team, but there are elements like this. So if somebody doesn't turn in an estimate, they get dinged for it, not the team. And so does that sort of make sense, how we deal with all of that? Okay. And this stuff right down here, again, this is where you can actually look. If you click on stuff like this, So this is just kind of about what it's all about, but this is what you find in a typical press kit: a folder with a designer's logo, a biography and a philosophy. Those are two separate things. The press release describing the current product line, the photos representing the line of garments, as well as a portrait of the designer. If you're doing a store, you could replace this portrait of the designer with a photograph of the store itself, something that's actually artistic and interesting. Again, you're trying to give the editor or whoever gets these things all the material that they would need to actually create the whole news story about you and what you're doing. A complete budget, including the cost of the press kit, you need to break it down. The photography costs, again, that would be a single line item on the cost of the press kit. The total number of press kits to be produced, and the rationale of where it's going to be distributed. Again, we talk about this all the time. People, oh yeah, I'm going to do this nationwide. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're doing it for a thrift store here in Chicago. Why on earth is New York going to run an article about that, or an item in that? Why is that going to be LA is going to pick this up? That's just a waste of money. Questions about this? So what is a press release? This will walk you through the whole thing. This talks about when you need to send these things out, lead times, all of that kind of stuff. Guidelines for this. It should not be handwritten. It should be, all the copies should be on 8.5 by 11 white paper. You should only use one side of the paper. Don't do a double-sided. The copy should be double-spaced in big margins on the right and left. The reason for that is that editors will write between the lines. Like you can see, I could actually write something in between the line right here about, oh, take out this word and put this word in here. I can't do that in between this line right here. I can't do that editing. So an editor, if it gets something that's all single-spaced, will simply throw it in the garbage. So yes? Yes. If the press release is more than one page, you need to pay attention to this. Christy is an absolute Nazi about this stuff. So if you don't do this, if you don't get at the conclusion of the press release, not 3 hashtags, not 1, not 5, but 4, all of this is established. All of this goes back to the history of people doing these things, and this is what people will expect. So again, if you're doing more than one page of your press release, you want to put the word "more" should be used in the center of the bottom page, not on the left-hand side, not on the right-hand side. Again, if you veer away from this, you'll get dinged on it. What should be included in here? This is actually now the template for it. So the company name or the designer name, the address, the contact person. Usually the contact person is not the photographer. The contact person is the PR person. This should all be here. And again, upper left-hand corner of the page, not centered. Again, this is not, you do not have to have this on letterhead. This is, again, a press release. It's not necessary to have this on letterhead. But the contact person that we're talking about in here is the publicity person, the chair, the show coordinator, the line rep, somebody that they would contact about this event. That's not the photographer. That's going to be the PR people for the designer. If it's the designer is their own PR people, it would be them. The release date, when do actually you want to send this out? Again, if you look up here, the lead time for newspapers would be 3 to 4 weeks. Magazines, 3 to 4 months. Magazines take a lot of time to print, so you've got to get it in early to get it. Right now, magazines are working on the issue that is actually coming up in 4 months from now. They're not working on something that's going to come up in the next month. So, blah, 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 blah. Is this exclusive to just this publication? Publications are more inclined to do something if they know they are the only people who are getting this news story. It just makes it quite possibly more enticing to them. That doesn't mean it's the best strategy, because if that one publication refuses to use it, then you're screwed. Nobody knows about your event, and there was no point in doing all of this stuff. Special 2, is this written for a specific publication? Okay, well, this is just for you guys, blah, blah, blah. Then the actual breakdown, the headline at the very top, the title of the release should be centered, all uppercase letters, underlined. It happens a third of the way down the page. The lead, this is the most important part of the press release. The lead is 1 or 2 sentences that summarize all these things, and we will be looking for these things. Who it is, what it is, where it is, when is it, and why. All of that has to happen in the first paragraph, first 2 or 3 sentences, period. Then the amplification, if that's underneath it, you can give more details about this. So under the amplification, it is a more depth detail about what you get. Because the thing is that if people don't read this first part right here, they're never going to read the second part. So again, all of this is spelled out for you here. This is actually, again, the guidelines for it. You should be doing this on 8x10 glossy stock. Now, if you guys you don't have glossy, you're going to come in and with like, semi-gloss, whatever. You don't want this on matte paper, because what happens with matte is that matte doesn't carry detail as well as glossy, and every time this is going to be rescanned or rephotographed to then run in whatever it's going to run in, and that's another generation, and every generation you lose detail. So the reason you do glossy stock for these things, again, if you've got like, oh God, I've got 500 sheets of this luster, use your luster. We're not gonna get crazy about that. But nonetheless, this would be, if in the real world, this would be what you would want to do. Avoiding busy backgrounds, you guys have already worked well on that part. The fashion should be emphasized. Most publications now will work with CDs or digital materials. I don't know anybody who's still working with a CD, but that's just me nonetheless. Send them prints. You need to handle this shit like it is like going into a museum. We've had people turn in stuff that have thumbprints of ink on the folders. We've had people with glue everywhere. People who have taped their captions on the background that have hair stuck in the tape. What kind of fucking message are you sending if you actually show up and say, yeah, here's my skanky thing that I didn't really care about, that's got my hair all in it, yeah, and please take me seriously, right? It's all about image, guys. Captions, again, this is the thing that would be on the back side of it. So the identification information that matches what's already on the press release. So the name of the company, the address, the contact person, the phone, the email, the fax, all of that. I can't believe we still have fax on this, but you can't do you know how bizarre is it? You can't do a medical prescription without it being faxed. So every doctor and every pharmacy in the world has a fax machine now, and faxes are like, how ridiculous is that? So anyway, so if you don't have a fax number on here, don't worry about it. Anyway, they should be attached to the bottom of the photograph with rubber cement. It's the best way to do it, and then make sure it's clean. So the presentation of the press kit and the press release and the photographs, it's usually in a folder with inside pockets. These are typically the things that it would contain. So again, the press releases, obviously. If there's news story about the photographer, Verser Engelhard, brand new, just jumped on the scene, most exciting thing that's happened in design and fashion in Chicago. There was a story that was run in Chicago Magazine 2 months ago. Clip that out and put it in here. Again, it just gives more context to it. Any feature stories, fact sheets. He was bankrolled by Eli. She gave him $100 million to actually launch this line, blah, 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 blah. Photographs with the captions, biography information, all of that stuff. You want to visually impress the editor. So this is basically how a biography is. A biography, there's 3 paragraphs. An introduction, a body, and a conclusion part. 3 to 5 sentences for each. A philosophy is not a biography. A philosophy is about what motivated this. What was the inspiration behind this line? All of that kind of stuff. All of this information is on our website, so I want you to use this stuff when you're still talking with your team, because over the next couple of weeks, you have got to put all of this together. That's what this is all about. That's why we're going over it right now. So there's another set of guidelines right down here. We've already looked at the good, bad, and other samples of stuff. This is a press release that was actually a real one done from Nordstrom, so it'll give you some idea. This is how they do it, contact information, who these all are. This again, all the caps, the titles, this is following exactly what we just talked about. If you read this first paragraph right here, you'll see it deals with the who, what, when, where, and why. Then down here, it talks more about the show itself. But if people don't get through this part is meaningless because they won't touch this part. But this they get into talking about, in the collections here, we're going to feature, these are the designers we're going to feature. Stella McCarthy, Valentino, blah, 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 Donna Karan, all of this. This is a media release for this again. So this is page 2. and this is the beneficiaries and blah, 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 but, you know, this is it. So you guys get where this is going. This is a real example of it. There are other real examples of stuff in here. Yes?
Question with the hashtags, because I know you talked about it, but it's supposed to say more, and on the very last page, it's supposed to have the hashtag.
Yes.
Is it supposed to match the page number, or is it just supposed to be 4 regardless?
It's got the number, typically people do 3 or 4. In the guidelines, it says do 4. That Nordstrom one has 3. It's got nothing to do with the page number. What it indicates is that there are no more pages. So it's letting them know you haven't missed a page. There isn't more to this. This is the end. Lookbooks. We haven't really looked through this part, but I want to look through it right now. So just to take a quick look. So this is one that was from H&M. And you can see as you go through this, there's different focuses in here. There's stuff that's closer, further away, all of this kind of stuff. So when you think about doing lookbooks, one of the cheapest, easiest things that you can do is, you won't see this on the video, but you will get it. You could take 3 images, do double-sided paper. There's a list of double-sided paper, I think, on this. If not, somebody shoot me an email right now and say, Verser, put in an announcement for double-sided paper. But anyway, if you use double-sided paper, there are 6 pages that I've got right here. And so I would print 2 pages on this side, 2 pages on the back side, and then put these 6 things together, fold them in half, and it's my lookbook. Yeah, I would totally staple it. And the Digital Print Center does really shitty printing. I wouldn't use them for that. But the binding stuff, they do really well. Yeah. Or, wait, other things. This is one of my favorite, actually, lookbook ideas. A mini fan folder. Half of one print that has a print here, and then as you open this up, so again, single print right here, open it up, double spread here, open it up, full spread here, or 2 pictures, or 5 pictures, backside, contact information, all of that kind of stuff. Make sense? You can be really creative about this. This doesn't mean that you have to go crazy about this and spend a fortune and go to, whatever. Kinko's does a great job of binding books, so you can just do a group of photographs. You can do something really down and dirty. You can actually do a hole punch in the corner of 6 images and then put a little steel ring through it, and that's your lookbook. I mean, there's a million ways that you can do this stuff. The more imaginative you are about it, the better it will be. So anyway.
Just like to point out that Kinko's, I don't think
I'm sorry, what?
I don't think Kinko's is an actual office.
Wait, why not? It's FedEx.
Oh.
All the Kinko's now are FedExes. Okay, I want to blow through this again just a little bit more. So you'll notice in doing all of these that they have style numbers and price points in here. That has to be a part of your lookbook. I'm going to show you another one. This was actually a J. Crew lookbook. And as you get to the end of this, again, really simple. This is a Barney's one. And again, you'll look here. These are price points and descriptions. But you can see how they've treated this one. So they're doing different focuses in this and different tricks out like this. So all of that information has to be a part of it. So if we look at, for instance, the Armani one, there are all these examples in here for your lookbooks. As you go through this, you can get ideas about this. But as we go through all of these, you'll see that these are just the pictures, and it doesn't have any of that information about style numbers or price points or any of that. But when you get to the end, this is how they deal with it at the end. So it does have all of this information and price points. Your lookbook has to have all of the information about each one of the outfits, how much it costs, what the style number was, does it have a name, all of that. You need to deal with that somehow. Some people will do it at the end like this. Some people will actually do it right on the pictures like I showed you earlier. That's entirely up to you, but those are the things you need to have in there. If again, you should look through all of these. These are really, some of these are really beautiful lookbooks. This was actually a designer who used to, I think, go to Columbia College. And this is her lookbook. And so you can go through and see this. So you see, there's no style numbers. There's none of this on here yet. But look at the difference here. This is the very same outfit, but this is considerably more than would happen in a press kit photograph. You would never send this to an editor. They would never use that. They could use this, but they would never use this. But together, this image makes for a much more interesting spread with these details in here. And oh, these are the accessories. So is this making sense to you guys? Like this. Again, it just makes for interesting pictures here. Again, the thing that's missing in all of this would be, I think what this person actually did, they had a separate piece of paper that had all the page numbers on it and the descriptions of the outfits, the style numbers, and the price point. And that was just tucked inside of this guy. That's another way of dealing with it. But you got to have the information in there. Questions about any of this? Okay, so there's all of this stuff here. Take a look through these guys. If you have any questions, then let us know. These are actually real press kits that were turned in for this class. So if you go in and take a look at these, you can actually see this was what the cover of their folder actually looked like. These were the concept boards that they actually put in here and the description of them. This is actually the presentation that they showed. This was their lighting examples and how they were going to deal with this. This was the styling part of it, the color palette. This was the talent that they were going to use. This was the hair and makeup. Again, you guys have gone through all of this, so you understand what that is. These were the different outfits that they were actually going to do. This is the press kit presentation. So again, this was the distribution strategy. Oh, we're going to do Teen Vogue, BuzzFeed, Los Angeles, and Dazed. It was for Akira, so they have stores in LA now as well as Chicago. So this was again the picture of that. Dojo Cat was going to be the guest designer in here. This was with the hook and all of this. This was her philosophy about what it was going to be. This is an example of a press release. Go through and look at this and read this. This will help give you the template for how you want to do this. These were the press kit photographs right here. And again, you can see the captions that were on this part. I don't know that you need to do photo credits, but you don't get dinged for that. And then this is the lookbook. So in the lookbook, this was, again, a completely different vibe than the press photographs, but a much different background. Again, you would never use this dark of a background for a press kit photograph because they would never do it, blah, 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 blah. And then these were, again, the looks right here. So the very first look was, again, this, ostrich feather dress, $150. This was the SKU number, blah, 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 blah. That's what happens. These are the finances. So you can see in here, that they were going to do two kinds of kits. They were going to put reefer in one of them. So this was the cannabis press kit. This is how much they're going to buy $30 worth of cannabis and tuck it in there. But they were also going to do a non-cannabis version of this for anywhere. So you get how this is going, right? So all of this down here, and you can see down here. So this was the total invoice. What is missing from this one is that they didn't put in the photography. Photography should have just been a single line in here, photography, $45,000 or whatever it would have been. That would have been the total, the true total. So what they are missing here is just the single line item for photography. Does that make sense? Additional documents, so this was the 3 copies of their estimates. This was all that kind of stuff. So again, all of this examples of this are sitting right here. These are 3 different examples. Every single one of these was done in this class. So these are references for you to go and make sure that you understand what's actually happening in here. We've talked about usage in this class. This is the best article I've ever read about usage. You should read this. It will change your life. If you don't know how much you want to charge, all of these readings in here will give you ideas about how you do estimating, what you should be charging, all of that. You should actually go through these things. Again, change your life. I get email after email. What should I charge? What should I charge? You should look at this. This is then the support for this stuff. So Typical, so the press release template, there's another version of it in here. All of these things will help in your doing your estimating part. This is actually the old version of the calculator that actually worked. Don't use this one. I promise you I will get you the one that actually does work before the end of the weekend. So, questions about any of this? Yes?
So within our team, and obviously both of us will be with the information, would it be easier if each of us was delegated what we're doing to create the whole presentation?
That's a great team strategy, and but the team has to make that call.
Okay.
But no, any strategy to get the work done is a great strategy. The only thing I have a reservation about is that the only thing I would counsel against is do not print images separately. Either give it to one person to print, or the three of you get together to do the printing, because otherwise the shit just stuff looks completely unrelated. Oh, I decided I wanted to do all really desaturated images, and so that's what my two are. And somebody else was like, oh, I decided to do hypersaturations and saturated images, and that's what their two are. And the other person says, well, I didn't decide to saturate or desaturate anything. And so you've got 6 images, and it looks like 3 different photographers on 3 different projects, and it doesn't work. Yes? Yes? You could do one person. You could typically what I do. The way I would suggest doing this. This is how I would do my projects. Is everybody goes through and culls their stuff down. So you go through your whole shooting that you did yourself alone, and you do all your number 1 picks. Go through it a second time and do your number 1 picks from that. So your number 2. So you go through, you do 1 stars. You go through it again, do 2 stars. Go through it again, do 3 stars. Get it narrowed down to where everything you want to show to the team is like 15, 20 images, right? 20, 25, something like a manageable group. Then you can look at them all together. What I typically do is I will do really small prints. I will do like 4x6 prints. I send it to Walgreens or to CVS and let them print it out. And then as a group, you get together and you've got, 60 images that you can play with and say, oh yeah, let's use this one, this one, this one, this one, that's the press kit. Oh, let's do this and this, and this is how we can lay out our lookbook, and oh, this image goes next to this one really well, whatever. It's more like that. It's very hard to do that digitally. Now, if you can do it digitally, go for it. I can't. So that's what I would say. Does that make sense to all of you guys? That when I do my portfolios, that's exactly how I do my portfolios, or actually any shooting that I'm doing for an editorial piece. I'll narrow everything down and I'll get my top 20 picks for a 6-page editorial. And then I sit to lay it down, because what's hard for me to do is that you'll end up with poses that are really similar that you don't, you want variety in that. I also will look at them and say, well, if I crop in on this one, then I can do sort of more like this right next to a full figure. I mean, you can really design that way. It's harder for me to actually do that in software. But if you're really good at that, then that's great. And you can do stuff over Teams, you can do stuff over Zoom. You don't need to necessarily be in the same room, but you have to do this as a team. Yeah. Okay, any questions about, yes, no, go ahead.
Okay, so the total, just to clarify, the total amount of images between all of us is 60? Or how many images should we have in total?
In terms of what you're going to then give to the models?
No, not to give to models, but like the presentation of the press.
Again, 6 images for the press kit,
Okay.
and then 6 looks in your lookbook. So if you're only using a single image for each one of those 6 looks in your lookbook, it'll be 6. If you're using 2 images from each, it'll be 12. If you're using 2 images for a couple of them and single images for the others, but no, it just needs to represent the 6 looks.
Okay.
And I do not want 60. I don't want anything that's got 60 images other than what we are giving to the model and to the hair and makeup.
Oh, okay.
But each of us individually are giving 50 to 60.
Yes. Yeah.
You're just not having like 60 images in the actual presentation.
If you have 60 images in the press kit, you have not listened to anything I've just said, and you're not going to do well on that assignment. Again, The press kit is 6 images, one for every look that you had. The lookbook is a minimum of 6 images, but if you want to get more creative, like the lookbook that I just showed you here earlier, this one right here, you can see in every look that they did in here, it was, and some of them like this is just 2 images, but it's from the same outfit. This is 2 images from the same outfit. This is 2 images from the same outfit. I don't need 60 of these. But this is done to be visually interesting. It's not done to show me more information. It's just like, I think these images are really interesting to look at, more so maybe than this. But does that make sense? So you are not printing out 60 prints. Do not show up here with 60 prints. I want 60 images in a digital format that I can give to the makeup artist and to the model. That's the only time that big number comes in. Other than that, you need to focus on the 6 outfits. One group for the press kit, one group for the lookbook. Again, you can refer to all the samples of these lookbooks that were done. So if you go down here, these were ones, past examples. So this Aaron Myers one, if you take a look at this, there's his portrait, his philosophy, his biography. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images. That was the press kit. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images for their lookbook, 7 for the lookbook, 8 images for the lookbook. It's still 6 outfits. Are we good on this?
Yes.
So again, you can refer to these things. That's why all of these examples are in here, to give you guys some reference and guidance for all of this. I'm going to call this, let's take a break, guys. It's 10:50, make it a hard 10, be back at 11 o'clock, and we have to jump into advertising today. I'm going to pause this video. So for all the people in here that are missing, okay. So anyway, on our website is all of this information. The most important thing, again, is you're going to be your project number 2 assignment worksheet. It's right here. We'll take a look at that in just a second. Again, we'll talk about layouts, what advertorials are. These are past examples of project number 2 of these advertising projects, references for you to look at. Down here, this is just support stuff. This is the new calculator that I actually just put in, but again, this is flawed, obviously, so I will fix this and repost that. When you do this advertising project, you have to do research on the companies that you're working for. So these are resources. We will take a look through all of these. You also are going to buy advertising in this. So when we talk about buying advertising, you actually need to price out. You need to set up what we call a media buy timeline. You don't have to have this part, you don't need done by next week. What you do need to have done by next week is your idea and concept boards that reflect your idea. That's what we're going to be doing next week. So anyway, we'll get through all of this part here and what these are and why these exist and all. This is just to help pricing stuff out. So if you want to do your advertising in Vogue, this is how much it's going to cost to do it in Vogue, that kind of stuff. So that's just what all of this is it. So again, the Session 5 resources in here for your advertising project are critical. So just remember that's where they are. So then in looking at this, I'm going to go through this. This is one of the challenging, I have to say, this is the most challenging of the assignments that happen in this class. So, I'll explain why the challenge is once we get through all of this. So, you can read along with me if you've actually got your Canvas site, open it up and so that you can read and tick mark anything that you think, oh God, I don't understand this part. So, the objective of this is to create a presentation for a new print campaign for a retailer that will be assigned to you. So, in this little thing, this is my little ceramic bowl here, I have got 8 retail stores that are all folded up. You get to pick one and that is your retailer. Now, you can trade you decide that you don't like this one, whatever, after everyone is picked, you can throw the one that you don't want back in here and grab another one, but the other one that you pick is the one you're stuck with. So again, it's a bit of a lottery here, but that's just how that is. So at any rate, that'll happen today. So anyway, so the purpose of the presentation, the purpose of your advertising will be and this is the critical part right here, it will be to introduce a new brand for that retailer or to rebrand an existing line. You have got to come up with an idea that fundamentally changes something. I'm either bringing something brand new into this retailer that they don't have, or I'm taking something that they do have and I'm flipping it on its head. I'm doing a fundamental change. So this again becomes the biggest challenge, but we will talk more about this in just a second. So the campaign that you create should be a prototype for a series of ads that will appear over a 1-year period. The media outlets for this campaign will be print for magazines and or website. Yes?
Does that mean it should be all seasons?
No. What this means is there are 4 seasons that we deal with in fashion. Typically, they would call them spring 1, spring 2, fall 1, and fall 2. Those are the big seasons that people deal with. Now, there are other offshoots to that. So, for instance, around December, you can do resort wear. There is back to school also can be considered. So, but this is here. This is what you're going to do. So, because Eli, the point that you make here is really important. This is a print campaign that is going to span an entire year, but you are only shooting for 1 season. That is typically a 3-month period. Then you are going, so the photographs you make are going to be for that 1 3-month period, but then you are going to do illustrations for how that campaign evolves over the other 3 seasons. So again, I will show you examples of the Chanel version in here is a really good example of what they chose to do. So you are shooting 1 season, but then you will illustrate how the campaign finishes out the year, and that will involve 3 other seasons. Again, let's get through all of this, and then we'll take a look at a couple of examples. And if you still have questions about that, we'll have plenty of time to get through all of this. Okay, so that's going to be the overall objective of this. So for the team needs to research and draft a customer profile. This is the beginning. You are now advertising to someone that is going to either shop at this retailer or has never shopped at this retailer, but you want to get them in. So again, your advertising is defined by 2 things: the customer you're trying to reach and the retailer that you're doing it with as well. So you're going to research and detail background information on the retailer, so all the facts about the retailer. Online has made this so much easier. Back in the day, we used to do this at the library. Now you can just go, yeah, I got H&M. What's the background on H&M? They've written it. You can find that so easy. AI can help you in doing all of this, and I encourage everyone to use AI. I'm not one of those people who's afraid of that. Anyway, so you're going to identify a new or an existing brand that you are going to work on. You're going to draft the reason why you're doing this, why you are going to be proposing. So what this ends up being is you're going to be pitching this idea to the retailer. You are going to be standing in front of all the creative board of directors and the creatives at whatever retailer and saying, this is what I think you should do because this will make you $1 gazillion. So again, all of this has to be directed at the retailer themselves. You need to refine your theme to accommodate the company and the customer profiles. Again, those 2 are connected. You need to establish the season that your campaign will start in. You need to create concept boards for the photo shoot. They need to be on set during your photo shoot. You are going to create layout sketches for the entire piece. Again, this is now advertising, so you need, is this going to be a 1-page ad in a magazine? Is this going to be a 4-page spread? Is this going to be a 6-page spread? You need to plan out how much pages you are buying over the course of an entire year. All of that conversation has to happen here. You're going to create, so I already told you that. You're going to create storyboard sketches of the campaign, of the ad campaign for the entire year. So again, you are only shooting 1 of 4 seasons. So the other 3 seasons, you need to do sketches of how you see that evolving over the course of the year. You're going to source the wardrobe and accessories. Again, 6 distinct looks that have the new brand for the retailer or the rebranding of the existing line. You need to schedule the entire team when you guys can get together and shop and source this stuff. So no matter what it is you're shooting, so let's say, for instance, you decide that I'm going to do a special collection at a Target that it's designed by Valentino in memory of his death. So that's going to be your idea. You don't need to go out and get Valentino gowns. You can actually source them from anywhere. It doesn't have to be that. They should look like Valentino stuff, but they don't actually have to be that stuff. So just keep that whole part in mind. We're not expecting you to actually, we're expecting to give you as much freedom as we can in terms of how you source wardrobe and accessories. Schedule the entire time when this team can shop together so that you have a cohesive body of work. Again, no look should be specific to any one photographer to shoot. I don't want anybody saying, well, no, these are my 2 outfits. That is not how this works. Anybody should be able to shoot any line that you guys pull together. You need to design and collect and construct the set for your photo shoot. You need to participate in the styling, model, and props. This is the same bullet points that existed for the last project. You need to do all the returns, again, collectively. You need to manage the entire budget for the whole overall cost. Again, presentation, props, photography, all that. Anything that you buy should be shared equally. Anything that is damaged that you now own should be shared equally. All of that. You need to research the advertising placements. What magazines are you going to put this in? So believe it or not, I actually shot for Kmart for Vogue magazine. They were going to run, in a desperation move, a 6-page spread in Vogue magazine of t-shirts from Kmart. I swear to God. And to price that out. So again, you need to price this out. So you remember earlier today when I told you cannot believe how much money there actually is in fashion? When you start pricing out the cost of advertising, this will blow you away. Anyway, you need to create a 1-year media buy timeline. So what this means is that I'll show you the story. I've got an example in here that we're going to look at. So instead of explaining this in great detail right now, we're going to look at the example first, and we'll talk about that. You need to draft the written copy that will be on the photograph. So again, there are advertising layouts that we're going to look at, and you need to think about how advertising is laid out, how it is constructed, and you need to follow those guidelines because they have been honed over years at advertising agencies, and we expect to see you that polished. You need to design and create and assemble the final presentation just like the one that you're doing for the first project. You need a physical copy of this, and then you also need a digital copy of this. Ensure print consistency across all images. Again, this is a nightmare when people are doing 3 or 4 page spreads and all of the images look completely different because everybody printed their own shit and nobody got together to do it. That would never happen in a magazine, and we don't expect that to happen with you guys either. So each photographer, 2 or more complete looks. One of the final images must be a full horizontal spread. I only need 1 from the team, but one of them should be a full spread. And the reason we do this is that you need to think magazine. That means there's going to be a gutter in the middle of your horizontal spread with staples in it. You do not put somebody's face in the gutter with staples in it. So you need to think about how you're actually going to shoot this horizontal spread so that it fits on the page. When I used to work for Playboy, for when we shot the centerfolds, the gatefolds, it was all shot on 8x10, and we had a mask that laid out over the ground glass of the 8x10 that had lines where the actual staples in the gatefold happened, so that you didn't put somebody's face right in there or somebody's boobs right in there or somebody's whatever. You put parts in there that could have staples in them. So anyway, that's what this is all about. You need to create an estimate for the photography fees and expenses, and you need to create a final invoice for the photography presentation and presentation format. This again is your checklist right here. This is exactly what Christy and I look at when we actually do it. So pay attention to all of these elements. We are going to want to see every single one of these in your final presentation. Again, the same thing about submitting images that models and hair and makeup can use will hold true for the project you're doing right now, project 1, but also 2 and 3. So this is the clarification. So I'm going to read this aloud because there's people who don't read this stuff, and I'm going to try to give you some clarity about this. So there's always some confusion about this advertising assignment. This is the single most confusing thing that we get to. So this is the part that I want to make sure everybody understands. And if you have any questions, now's the time. So anyway, so in an attempt to clarify, I'm going to create a hypothetical example of the assignment and show you how I would approach it. This is me. At its most basic, the assignment is to introduce a new brand or rebrand an existing line for an established retailer and then create an advertising campaign for that. In my example, I've decided to introduce a men's line for Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret does not carry men's underwear. I am going to create that. This is something brand new for them. This is something that I could go to and say to them, do you realize you have this untapped market? Do you understand how many women who are coming in here to buy lingerie for themselves would in turn buy shit that's sexy for their boyfriends? It is a market that you should tap into, and you're not, and that's my pitch. So it is a brand new line. It's not, I'm not just saying, it's brand new for them. That's the way you need to think about this. So, in planning the images that I'm going to shoot, I have to keep in mind Victoria's Secret's brand and create images accordingly. Maybe I shoot men with wings and I call the campaign Victor's Secret. I know that staying true to the brand, the images will be of sexy men, young boys in their late teens, early 20s. We all remember Victoria's Secret when it was that brand. Again, I wrote this 15 years ago. And then it decided not to be that brand. It decided to be far more inclusive. And then it decided to go out of business. And then it decided to come back into business. And it's now gone back to having nothing but young, teen, sexy bodies, whatever, on their stuff. I'm not defending that. I'm merely saying that that's the context that this is coming in. If you pick them, you need to stay true to their brand. You can't go in. Anyway, so you guys get where this is going. I know that in staying true to the brand, the images, blah, 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 the lighting, the color palette, the typeface, the logos, the layouts, all of that will be consistent with how Victoria's Secret does their advertising. So again, if you look at H&M, they are very specific in their advertising and how it's almost void of copy, except for it'll have just a single style name on it, and then H&M's logo, and that's it. You know, so again, whatever you do should be true to this. So if you are going to, if you get Target, you have to look at Target's branding and say, oh, this is how they do this. This is how I need. It has to fit in with that. Okay. I feel that a national print campaign for 1 year is needed to launch the new line. So after considering the demographics, I decided to make the following media bylines. I'm going to do these 4 magazines. 2 of them don't exist anymore, but that's okay. So for the fascist conscious young man, I'm going to do Details and Esquire. For the health conscious young man, I'm going to do Men's Fitness and Men's Health. For the typical young man, I'm going to do Maxim and Playboy. Playboy doesn't exist anymore, but Maxim does. For the gay young man, I'm going to do Instinct and Out. And then for the typical young woman who I'm going to advertise to, I'm going to do Cosmo and Elle. So it's important that the campaign is successful in the first year. So at the end of the year, I can return to the catalog and direct mail that Victoria's Secret is known for. Victoria's Secret does not do print advertising. I am going to suggest that they do for 1 year. That's a new part of this plan, to just get the word out there about this. Anyway, therefore, I'm going to buy a 4-page spread in the above 10 magazines for January and February. Because March and September are the big fashion issues, I keep the same level of media buying for all the magazines except for Details and Esquire, Cosmo and Elle, which I increased to 6-page spreads. This is what we mean by a media byline. You have got to plan out all year long who are you going to advertise in? How many pages are you going to be buying? How does what you're trying to sell fit with that? So again, again, the big issues, September and March are the big fashion issues. So if it's fashion that you're doing, you want presence in those, and you probably will spend more money and do more pages in those issues than you would necessarily in the summer months, where things tend to get a little bit more slack and not as much attention is happening on that. The big issues, the September and March issues, sell double what in terms of numbers is of other issues during the rest of the year. So all of this matters. So you have to consider planning all of this out. Then in this example, it says the SRDS gives me rates for all of this. You don't use the SRDS anymore, only because it used to be the SRDS. It stands for standard rates, something I'll show you in just a second. Anyway, it used to list all the information about every magazine that was published in the world. And it was how much it cost, how much a page cost, how much lead time you needed, who the advertising people were that you needed to contact to buy. All of this stuff existed in this. Unfortunately, they quit doing the print version now. They only have an online version, and the online subscription, the last time I looked, was $1,750. I do not want you guys to spend $1,750 to get access to the SRDS information. You can actually now find rates if you go to the websites of the magazines that you want to actually advertise in. I've got a whole list of I'll show you, of magazine buy rates that you can use that are just on our website. But if you want to go into magazines that I don't have that stuff for, you've got to do the research and find out how much it actually costs to buy a page in a given magazine. We'll look at that in just a second. So the SRDS, or anyway, I get the rates for all of this. I do the simple math. I put together my presentation package for Victoria's Secret that includes the layouts, the images for the first 2 months, same images for both months. Also included are layouts illustrating the planned spreads for the rest of the year, along with a description of how the campaign will evolve. All the budgeting cost figures are a part of the presentation. Also included in my presentation is every item on the checklist that two brilliant people have drafted for me, referring to this checklist right here. After spending millions of dollars on launching the new line, I realized that it was a flawed idea, and I changed my name to Toyota and get a job at Home Depot. Questions about this? So again, the challenge is coming up with what is novel, what is new. So we have had people do things like, again, I'm just going to give you some ideas here. I don't want you to, again, I just don't want you to struggle with this as much as people have struggled in the past. So a classic, if you guys know, not every famous designer, a lot of very famous designers do a special line one time only for Target. So Missoni did a thing with Target. Chanel did a thing with Target. McQueen did a thing with Target. And it was a one-time thing. It came out. It was one line. It wasn't meant to be forever. That was it. And then it just went away. So that was one possibility. The Victoria's Secret, the gender bend in here, that's another one as a possibility. There was Hugo Boss. No, not Hugo Boss. Who am I thinking? Helmut Lang actually did for, I want to say it was Neiman's, it may have been for Bendell's, I forget who it was for anyway, but they did a relaunch. He actually brought back designs that he had done in the 1990s, and they had a special limited one season of reissues of all the famous stuff that he had done in the 90s. But on top of that, they actually went out and sourced as much of the original Helmut Lang from the 90s that they could find, and they put that in along with the new redesigned stuff. So it was kind of a hybrid of a thrifting store experience as well as a reissue of old favorite stuff. But again, it was a limited time thing. So again, it was for Saks or for Neiman's, whatever. They still carry Helmut Lang. That wasn't what was new about this. What was new about it was that it was a reissue or a thrift version of that in a pop-up shop that existed for 1 month. So again, it isn't that they didn't carry helmet lining. They did before this happened and they did after this happened, but this was this special spin on it that they could go and say, you know, we need to actually bring back, you've lost a lot of customers that, you know, through the pandemic and all this, blah, 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 blah. We need to bring them back. We think a reissue of this stuff will speak to those people. So all the people who are in their 50s now will actually come back and buy jeans that are too skinny for them to really wear. Does this make sense to you guys, what I'm talking about here? So, what not to do. We actually had somebody come in here once and say, okay, they picked, Macy's was their retailer, and they said, we're going to do really high-end watches for Macy's. And I was like, Macy's already carries high-end watches. And they said, okay. And they came back and they said, we're going to do really high-end backpacks for Macy's. And I was like, fuck, Macy's already carries really high-end backpacks. You guys need to get beyond this. You need to be more creative than this, whatever. And they just never could get it. They came back, we're going to do really high-end boots for Macy's. They already carry really high-end boots. We're going to do really high, I mean, it just kept going on and on and on, this really high-end thing. And it's like, they already carry all this shit, which should be a warning. If you get Macy's in here, you need to be nervous about coming up with something novel for them. But anyway, again, special, you know, pop-up shops of the designers doing some special thing. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do, Alexander McQueen's going to do a special thing at H&M with all the proceeds going to suicide prevention because Alexander McQueen killed himself. Does that sort of make sense what we're talking about here? So you need to come up with this idea. Yes, he killed himself. Yeah. He killed himself, it was like a week or two after his mother died. Yeah. So, yeah, very sad. Anyway, so that's the idea. So this is the biggest challenge you guys have, is to figure out what it is you're going to do for the retailer that you get and have concept boards for this by next week. So, any questions about this? All right. Really quickly, I want to talk about doing some layout stuff just to make sure that everybody's feeling good about this. Oh, I want to show you some of the, so again, I want to show you past examples of this. So this is a past example that was done for Barney's. So if we actually take a look at this, so this was, again, one that happened in this class. This was one that I thought was really extremely well done. So this is going to be for the their spring and fall 2014 advertising campaign. So this would be all 4 seasons: spring 1, spring 2, spring fall 1, fall 2. So this is, again, pictures of the store. They're talking about this. So actually, let me download this so that it doesn't look all wonky. Okay, so this was their campaign, the store. Well, it's just as bad here. So I don't know why this is splitting up so bad. So the concept, the women of Barney's New York. So what they said is that we are going to do a pitch of 4 different types of women, or 4 different ways that they would want to actually dress, or the way they see themselves. Romantic was one, eccentric was one, minimalist was one, and glamorous was one. And so this was their posing ideas. Again, typical concept boarding that we've already talked about. You guys know this. These were the magazines that they were going to actually advertise this in. So you can keep going through this. This was their media byline. They were going to keep it very simple. So they were going to do, for V Magazine, they were only going to do March and September. They were going to do a 2-page spread in both, and then they were going to do a magazine insert. What a magazine insert is that you actually have something that is printed outside of the magazine, and then you give it to them, and they actually tuck it inside their magazine. So you have to pay for the printing on the outside, but you have full control, which you don't if you're actually just having the magazine itself printed as part of the magazine. So, and then it just gets tipped in. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen this as you go through magazines. A lot of times the paper is a completely different stock, and it just, so those are all possibilities. I'm not saying you need to do that. I'm just saying that's what they chose that they were going to do. So this is what the 2 pages actually for them cost. So 2 pages for this in color was this amount of money, then the 5 pages, blah, blah, blah. So you get where this is all going.
Would you or discourage doing black and white?
Well, unless you have a special digital camera, you'll always shoot in color. You just make it black and white.
Yes, I'm saying in general, like.
It all depends on the brand. Everything is driven by the brand. No, I'm serious, Eli. No, every decision here. This is not your decision. It's not your decision. It's not the team's decision. It is the brand's decision. And if you look at this and you say, well, this brand is screaming black and white, I need to do this in black and white, that makes sense. But if you take something that was like, if you take somebody like Missoni, that's all about color, and you make it black and white, they would fire you. Because for them, color is the single most important thing that they do.
So you should be doing something outside of the brand identity, just not something that extreme.
I'm not saying outside of the brand identity. I'm saying the Victoria's Secret thing, I was going to shoot those men exactly the same way that they shoot the women. I was going to do the same layouts for it, the same poster size, the same type, the same color or black and white. All of it was going to be identical to the women's part. It's just I was introducing something new. So it's not outside of their brand. It's totally in their brand. That's the whole idea. Okay, then anyway, you can go through all of this, blah, blah, blah. But this is the pictures that they ended up doing. So again, the 4 different women. So that was going to be their part. However, these guys were not slackers. So they also did, oh, this is really funny. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to show you, or here, do this. Don't play it right now, because, so they did a video, a behind the scenes video that's right here. Don't play it now. Look at it on your own. I played this once because I'm recording this right now. This gets, the music for here gets flagged as a copyright infringement, and they block my video. So watch this on your own. It's a really well done video. It's got the whole vibe, but you'll get a sense of it. Yes.
So if you wanted to do a video with music for the first assignment presentation,
Great.
it's gonna play though.
Yeah, but I'm not recording it to put up on YouTube. That's the problem. Like if I played this right now and then post this on YouTube, you guys will not see it because their algorithm, they flag it. So anyway, okay. I want to show you this next one though, because this will help give you an idea about the seasonal part of this. So this was one, actually I'm going to download this one too, hang on. All right, so they decided they were going to do sportswear for Chanel at Neiman Marcus. So again, this you can read through all of this. This is how they did their Neiman Marcus is an American luxury store. So this is kind of the history of the company. So this is the idea behind sport. Neiman Marcus caters to upper class, fashion forward customer. With numerous prestigious design brands, Neiman Marcus successfully provides high-quality clothing for blah, 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 blah. You can read through all of this. This is the customer profile for the person that they actually, who are they trying to target? So to read this really quickly, the geographical segment for this is it wasn't important. They did want to do a city size of 100,000 plus. They wanted to do this again for urban population, temperate climate, because again, it's sportwear. The demographic for this, the age was to 39 and 40 to 59. Gender was female. Income was over 50,000. Occupation, professional, education, college graduate. The subculture segment in this was American, upper class, single and married, both, and their cycle, and they were considered to be achievers. The degree of knowledge would be expert, the benefit sought, prestigious, the attitude positive. All of this is defining who the customer actually is. So I can tell you this, in all the advertising that I get, the stuff that I have shot, they give me a person. So what they do is they create a fictitious person, but it gives me then the idea, how do I shoot for this person? So what I'll get is, okay, you are shooting, your customer is Molly Jones. She lives in Winnetka. She's married to another woman. She has got their combined income is over $600,000 a year. They own their own house. They have 2 dogs, really small dogs, because that's the thing that they're into. The thing she really loves to do is play tennis, and her charities are this, that. I mean, it goes on for pages and pages and pages to create this person that then you can say, how do I reach that person? What are they going to respond to? So in my mind, shooting some hardcore punk scene is not really going to motivate that person to go to Neiman's to buy this shit. I need to speak their language. I need to do the things that entice them to go to this store. But I also need to keep in mind that Neiman's isn't going to be interested in me doing this really hardcore punk thing either, because none of the clothes that we're actually going to show you would make sense to be shot that way. Make sense? All right. Sorry guys, this is their media byline right here, and you can actually see, let me jump in here a little bit closer, how expensive stuff gets. So this is what they were going to do. 1 page in Vogue for January, 2 in February, 6 in March, because it was the big issue, 3, and then they go all the way over here and all of that kind of stuff. So then they price out the media byline in Vogue, and you can see right off the bat, they're going to spend $6 million in 1 year for Vogue magazine, and these are 2014 prices. They're going to spend almost $4 million in Bazaar, and then they're going to spend another $3.5 million in L. These are real prices, people. $14 million for 3 magazines. Do you know what Prada advertises in? Prada does every issue of Vogue all over the world. There's 10 or 12 of them. They do 3-4 page spreads every single month. They spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year in their advertising. And you guys are worried about charging $500 for your day. Yeah. Circulation. And they can get away with it. What? No, everybody has 12. Yeah, 1 a month. Anyway, moving on. So this was their design. So for the first one, they were going to do Chanel. So this was going to be for the first season, Chanel support. So this was actually this was the layouts that they were going to shoot. They had to do the one horizontal. They didn't want to put her face right in the middle. They were going to do a close-up here or 3/4, then they were going to do a full length. This is, again, they're planning out how they're actually shooting this. This is what we get when we actually do these things. So then again, these are their inspiration for this. So you get the whole idea. This was actually, more inspiration for this, action shots, demonstrating all of this kind of stuff, whatever. This is what they actually, this is makeup, and this is what they actually shot. So let me go back to full screen here so that you can see it all. Sorry. So this is how it started. Again, if you look at Chanel's advertising, this is the font that they use. This is the layout system that they use. This was going to be at Neiman Marcus, exclusive to Neiman Marcus. This is the font that they use. This is basically the layout design that they use. So again, this is Chanel Sport, and you go through this. This is their horizontal, and you'll see they shot this thing to make it look exactly like it was supposed to look here. So all of this was already predetermined. then this is the rest of their season. This is what they are now going to do this was for spring 1, these pictures. For spring 2, they were going to do the same thing, but with Tom Ford as the designer. For fall 1, they were going to do the same thing with Prada as the designer. Again, this is all sport. Prada doing sport at Neiman Marcus. Tom Ford doing sport at Neiman Marcus. And then Dior was the last one. So again, all of these designers already exist at Neiman Marcus, but this was going to be a special hook. We are going to do, I think they decided they would do a pop-up shop in a very specific part of the Neiman Marcus store and only carry the sportswear for this limited time. The only time you could buy Dior was this 3-month window. The only time you could buy Chanel was this 3-month window. So this is what we mean by you can take an existing brand and tweak it in a way that makes it special enough to warrant $14 million worth of advertising. Does that make sense? We good on this part? Okay, then again, you can take a look through this. This is the estimate on this. This is then the invoicing on this. This was basically what's going on in all of this. So these examples that we have given you here are really critical for you to leverage. Don't ignore these things. There's a few more in here. We're not going to look at those right now. I want to do a quick, so again, take a look through all of these guys. You can actually look at this layout slideshow thing. Actually, I may actually show this slideshow thing. Hang on one second. Because this is going to be the last thing that we get to. Just realize that there are support stuff for you in here. So if, for instance, if you look at this company profile resources, this is how you can actually look it up. So these things, this was when we used to do things in the print day. Now you would never bother to do this. Simply go online and you can get the company profile. That's all, so you don't need to worry about that. The customer demographic checklist, if you take a look at this, this is how you develop your customer. So you go through this, it's just a checklist. What gender are they? What age are they? How big is their household? What's their occupation? This is how you start to build who that person really is, because this drives exactly what you're going to actually do in terms of who you're shooting for. This is Vogue's media kit, and this is a couple of years old, but if you actually take a look at it, that didn't work. We'll try Harper's media kit. So this is their media kit, and they will have ad rates in here someplace. So if we take a look through here, if they don't, I will actually find them for you. But yeah, this talks about what they're going to do in every single issue, so you can decide what issue you would actually be working in here. And, oh, right, there was print rates right at the very bottom. So access print rates right here. And this is the cost. So one full page in Harper's Bazaar right now is $222,620. That's one page. These covers that you'll see in here, like this cover 2, cover 3, these are fan fold covers. You can't buy the front cover of a magazine, but you can buy, if it's a fan fold, you know, you open it up, you can buy the inside cover. That would be cover number 2. Inside that, you can have cover number 3. And then cover number 4 usually is the very back of the magazine. They cost more than just inside pages. But you can see that a 6-page spread for one single month in here is going to be $1,200,000. You do that times 12, it's over $12 million. And this is just Bazaar in the United States. So again, going back to the Prada thing, they do every single magazine in the US, they do every single magazine in Europe, every single magazine in Asia, and every single magazine in South America. And they do 6, 8, 10-page spreads in all of them every month. It's staggering. Do not be, because we've had people come back to us and say, well, the numbers that we came up with were just impossible, so we didn't give you the right numbers. It's staggering, but that should be a good, that should be, that should make you happy. So at any rate, I've got a number of these that exist in here, but you can already see that the Vogue link is broken. Let's see if the L link actually works. Yep, this is L, and they'll have their advertising rates in here. So you guys will see. You've got to do some homework here to figure that out. This is the standard rate and data service. This is the one we all used to go to. But if you click on this, again, they only do, they have everything that you would want in here for any magazine possible, but you've got to subscribe to it. And the subscription is prohibitively expensive. Don't do that. Please don't do that. This is an example of a thumbnail sketch right here, so you can sort of get some idea of what these things look like. What I always tell people is if you don't sketch well, that's fine. You should just take an image of something that you like, a magazine, tear it out, hold it against a window with bright light coming through it, stick a piece of white paper against it, and trace it. That's what I would do. So anyway, that's that. And then this is my, what I call fonts essential group. Do not start getting into weird fonts like that have, instead of a, you know, an I that's got a little heart on the top of it, or a font that's made up of gravestones, or fonts that are made up of, you know, these are the fonts that every magazine designer in the world uses. If you want to go outside of this, that's fine, but be careful. If you are going to do Vogue, this Didot is the Vogue's. This is the one that they actually use. So they use a minor version of it, but it looks just like it. So anyway, just so that you know, that's in here as well. And the last thing that we're going to do is simply take a look at this layout part, because I want to give you guys time to get together in your team. So I'm going to do the layout part. It'll take hopefully no more than 10 or 15 minutes. And then we will have gotten through a big day. All right, really quickly, how do I do a quick slideshow of a folder? You guys know? Do what? Oh, that's right, I can just spacebar them, right? Okay, sorry, absolutely right. Okay, advertising. So, there's a really famous guy here in the city, well, he's not alive anymore, but there was a guy, David Ogilvy, who literally started out, I mean, it's the rags to riches story. He started out in at an advertising agency, and he was the guy in the mailroom. And what he thought was, and this is back in the 40s, I think, 40s, late 40s, early 50s. He decided to really dissect what happens in advertising and how people approach advertising. And he turned it into Ogilvy Mather is still one of the largest advertising agencies in the world. So, and what he decided to do was he broke his advertising down into 5 discrete elements. So in those 5 discrete elements, you have this, which would be called the image, this, which would be called the headline, this little thing underneath it, which would be called the caption, this, which you would call the body or the text, and then this is called the signature. So those 5 elements exist in every good ad in some form or another. But what Ogilvy did was he looked at it and he said, well, how do people really approach this page? And what he figured was is that people, how do you guys read? You read left to right, but you also start top to bottom, right? So this top left-hand corner right here is the single most important part of the page, because this is the part that everybody's eyes go to immediately. So your most important element goes right here. Then again, you start to read and you go across the page like this, and then you work your way down like this and then across like this. Ogilvy, they call this a Z pattern because it looks like a Z. You start here, most important, down to here, to least important, down here. And all advertising is laid out that way. So in this case, the single most important thing is the image. The next most important thing actually is the caption. You'll see another example of this in just a second. The third is the headline, the fourth is the copy, and the fifth is the signature. So the image is pretty obvious. What is it? The headline actually deals exactly with the setup of this ad. So how well do you know your customers? And again, this is a picture of a guy saying, really, you're going to sell me shampoo? I'm bald. So so these two are connected. I can't read the caption under here, but we will look at one where I can read it. Then the body of all of this is all the text about how, you need to know who your customer is, this, blah, 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 blah. And then the signature. And the signature is critical because what all advertising is designed to do is motivate you to do something. So typically in fashion, the advertising is designed to motivate you to go to the store and buy that shit. So it doesn't do you any good to have advertising that does motivate people, but then doesn't give you any way to access that desire. So when people leave off the signature, which people do all the time, you are defeating the whole purpose of advertising. So the signature is the logo of the store you're going to go to, the 1-800 number of the store you go to, the website address of the store you go to, the physical address of the store that you're going to go to. You need to get people to say, oh God, I have to have this thing, and then you need to make it easy for them to get it. So that's what signatures are all about. You can do other styling here. This is one style of doing it. In this case, it's the same thing. However, in this one, they feel like the headline is actually more important than the image. So they start with the headline: image, caption, copy, signature. In this layout over here, they really consider that the headline and the image are equally important. So they do it in this sort of format right here, where you've got image and then again headline, sharing importance here, caption, body, and signature. So this is the basics of advertising. If we take a look at this, let's see if I can go to the next one. This is a perfect example, again, of Z advertising and why this matters. So what is the most important thing in this ad? What are they advertising? No, they're advertising eyeshadow. That's a big difference. Eyeshadow. Where is the eye on this image? In the most important spot. Could you have shot this image flipped? Sure you could. You would never know. Not the copy down there, but how would you know if I flipped this image and instead of having the eye here, it was over here? Couldn't I just flip this image horizontally? Come on, guys, you got to stay with me on this. This is critical. This is the lives you are going into. Couldn't I flip this image so that Chanel was written over here and the eyeball was over here? Yes, I could have. So the reason this is done this way is they feel like the visual here is more important than the Chanel. But the Chanel is just as important, so it's up here. It's not down here. It's not down on the bottom here. It's not running through the middle here. It is up here for a reason. The whole Z pattern. Start at the most important part, this eye, into Chanel, and then down into here so that you get the little copy about what this is. Sorry, I can't get rid of that guy. So the copy part that's down in here, then they throw you a little still life in here. The signature is broken up. Part of it's down here, and then part of it is on the side right here. But this is classic advertising in the layout, and this is what we are going to expect from you guys. You need to do these ads the way they actually look, and you need to then look at the retailer that you get and see how they do their advertising, what fonts they're using, how their layouts are done, all of that, because your stuff needs to look like it's from them or for them. Are we good on this part? Again, all of these examples exist in here, so this is the last one, I think. No, I've still got 5 minutes more, so I'm going to try to show you. So in this one, anybody have any idea who this is? Say what? It is up there. So here, in this case, no, because you look at this, and it's an interesting ad, right? But if you knew that this is actually Sofia Coppola shot by Jürgen Teller, wouldn't that be more important to you to know that? So in this case, it's the most important part. So they put it first. So in this case, the caption is first. Because if you don't know who this is, it doesn't have anywhere near the weight. You have any idea what they had to pay Sofia Coppola and Jurgen Teller to shoot this picture? They paid him millions. They paid her tens of millions. And then we come down. Marc Jacobs would be, again, at this now, this is the headline that's down here. And then finally, this part down here, there is very little copy in here. It's just this part right here, gardenias floating on water, enhanced by creamy musks, right? That's the copy of this. And then, again, Saks Fifth Avenue is the signature. So still done in this exact same Z pattern. What is most important, followed by what's next most important, third most important, fourth, and then fifth. All 5 elements still exist, just in a different pattern because of how they rate in terms of importance. So then finally, the last thing I'm going to show you here are advertorials. So what advertorials are is they're actually ads that are designed to look like editorial content in a magazine. And the reason that they do this is that if you do look at the statistics of how people look at magazines, people will spend, it's a staggering amount of time, so people will spend 500 to 1,000 amount of time on an editorial, looking at an editorial, as they will on an ad. So if you can fake it and they actually think that they're looking at editorial, they'll really be looking at advertising. And again, it's a trick that a lot of them use. So this is actually Ungaro's advertorial. That's what they call these things. But they use all the tricks to make this look like it's an editorial. So you can see they've got a photo credit down here. When was the last time you saw an ad other than the Jurgen Teller one I just showed you that's actually got a photo credit on it? This is all designed to make this look like it is an editorial content of the magazine. So there's several pictures in here. This is actually the entire editorial. You'll see that this is advertising. It has 0 copy on it because this is designed to look like an editorial. But this is all advertising. Does that make sense? Okay. So that is it for the editorial part, the advertising, the introduction to all of this. I need to know if you guys have questions about it. I know we've covered a lot today. I'm going to stop this video recording right now. I will post this today.